Ryan Poles just talked about what's needed for the next stage of Caleb Williams' development. We're talking about that, plus his first year under Ben Johnson, the promise that we saw there as well. We're talking about the foundation and the ceiling of Caleb Williams. We're also going to talk about Kevin Byard and Nahshon Wright, how they're sending a message that they want to stay in Chicago, and DJ Moore reportedly has a new trade suitor. We'll talk about all that, plus Kmet's comments on Declan Doyle and more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Derek Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. I want to start off with this quote from Ryan Poles in regards to Caleb Williams. Ryan Poles was on NFL radio where he was asked about Caleb and his development. He said this: I think coach is going to challenge him even more to be even more efficient, not only with just the operation, but completions. I think when you have special playmaking traits and you lean onto mobility and escapability, I think sometimes you don't take the easy throw. Taking what's given to you, moving on to the next down, staying ahead of the chains, and being more efficient overall. I think that's what he's going to challenge him on doing, as well as becoming a leader, a little bit more vocal. He was learning so much. He was in the fire. I think as he grows as a young quarterback, I think the leadership will continue to grow. And this is a great quote by Ryan Poles. Like you need Caleb. Efficiency needs to be the next step of Caleb Williams. Like we've seen it. He can make amazing plays with his arm. He can make amazing plays with his legs. He can extend plays that should have been ended in sacks. He can extend that play out and turn that into a positive play for the Chicago Bears, whether he ends up taking it running or just by his escapability, he buys more time for his wide receivers to get open. We saw all of that last year for Caleb Williams, and it was a great year of growth and development for Caleb. It was a special season for Caleb Williams. We saw the late game comebacks and all that type of stuff. It was special. But like I said, I've said this many times before, is that I don't want to see the Iceman whole moniker become the way that we win football games. I want it, of course, to be something that's additive, something that we can go to when we need to, but through other things. And I want to be clear, not everything's on Caleb Williams. Of course, there were drop passes, all that type of stuff happened, that affected Caleb, but there were still overthrows, there were misses, there was things like that. You're talking about a player that last year in Caleb Williams, he actually, the one place that he took a step back in is that his completion percentage. He went from a 62% completion percentage as a rookie to 58% last season. And if you can get that upwards, if you can get that to even be higher than his rookie year, if you can get Caleb Williams to hover between 65 and 68% completion percentage, you're talking about a quarterback that the efficiency as well as the just overall skill form, it gets you to a place. Like Caleb Williams went from 3,500 passing yards as a rookie to 3,900, from average of 6.3 yards per pass to 6.9, from 20 touchdowns to 27. The interceptions also went up by 8, from 6 to 7. But it is what it is there. His sacks also went down from 68 to 24. Like, these are things that we saw. He had a QB rating of 90, over 87 as a rookie. So, like, Caleb Williams made steps, and he definitely made progress. That efficiency, right? If he can improve on that in year 3, that's going to be such a big step in the right direction for Caleb Williams. And that's really the one thing. I'm not saying that Caleb doesn't have other things that he can go to or that he can grow from, but that accuracy and the efficiency, those two things, if Caleb Williams makes a step in those two places, then you're talking about not only a quarterback that is, a good, young, promising quarterback, but he very well one of the best in the league. And that's what you want to see from Caleb. And so, Ben Johnson we've talked so much about Ben Johnson and the mindset that he has on development. Part of the reason that Ben Johnson came in here, of course, was to be the head coach overall, which you have to have your finger on the pulse of the whole team. And we talked about that ad nauseum. And we talked about the fact that Caleb, for Ben Johnson, for what it's worth, has shown the exact type of leadership, the leader of men qualities that we all wanted to see from Ben Johnson. We saw that from him. We saw how he can develop an offense. Look at the growth of Caleb Williams under him. Look at the growth of Colston Loveland and Luther Burden as the season went on. All of a sudden, two people are all of a sudden like doubting Rome Odunze, like because of injury, but like Rome had also a tremendous year of growth. The injuries that just were a major factor for Rome Odunze, right? But to get back to Caleb, accuracy has to be a thing. When you look at the players, with the top 10 players in the league as far as yards, total yards passing on the season. Matt Stafford, number 1 in the league with 4,700 yards passing this season, 65% completion percentage. Jared Goff with 4,500 yards passing this year, 68% completion percentage. Dak Prescott, 4,500 yards as well, 67% completion percentage. Then you get into Drake May. Drake May, 72% completion percentage, absolutely bananas, the highest in the league, right? But every quarterback in the top 10 of passing had at least a 62% completion percentage, except for Caleb Williams. Except for Caleb. But yet, he was 7th in the league in passing yards. Look at just what being a more efficient quarterback would do for that. Now, of course, Ben Johnson's already talked about that they will address drops in this offseason, and because it's something that they definitely need to address as well. They absolutely have to address those drops. But for Caleb to truly make that next step, to be not just good, which he's a damn good quarterback. Like, I say what you will, all the Caleb Williams haters, say what you will. He's grown as a leader. He's grown in a lot of places. He's a damn good quarterback. But if you truly want to get into the area of being elite, which should be the goal when you have your franchise quarterback, Caleb is going to have to get that completion percentage closer to 60, like I said, 62 to 65%. I would love to see 65 to 68%, right? I would love for him to be in that space, and if he is that, it's great. But the Bears exceeded the expectations in year 1 under Ben Johnson. But that's it. That gets you no credit for year 2 under Ben Johnson. You have to continue to develop, right? And so we'll see how that's going to go out. And, for what it's worth, Ryan Poles hopes to see that. He talked about that as well. But he also talked about how the shift on defense as well and what he wants to see from the skill positions, right? And so, Ryan Poles is the guy that has to make these roster decisions. He has to make these moves. He has to be the guy that comes into this team and has the vision of how to execute. He's going to have to do his job, right? He's going to have to do a lot of work this offseason because of the Chicago Bears cap situation, because of the cap space that we don't have, right? And so between trades, restructuring, smart deals, draft, this is going to be has to be one of Ryan Poles' best and most complete seasons as a GM. So while we're talking about the development of Caleb Williams, which is great, we know where he needs to grow and how he needs to grow, we also need to see Ryan Poles. And while he's doing these interviews are great, and he's going to do them because he's going to be asked about them because he's the guy running this team, but Poles got to get in the lab, man. Poles got to get in the lab because this is not going to be last season, the Bears had some of the most cap space in the league. And not to say that makes it easy to add to your team or easy to have a great offseason. It just gives you more tools to do it. Now you have less tools at your disposal. You have less runway as far as cap space at your disposal, and you still have to overhaul the defensive line. You may have to replace many positions in that secondary as well, to start getting players in place to do that. This is going to be a tough offseason for Ryan Poles. But let's hope that he's up to the standard. Let's hope that he's up to get ready for it, because it's not going to be easy. I want to be clear. No matter how easy it may look, it's not easy to do the job that Ryan Poles has this season. Already starting off behind the 8 ball at over $4 million over the salary cap to start off your offseason, that's not easy. We can talk about all the possibilities. Of course, it's easy to list. We can restructure this guy, cut this guy. It's easy when you're in a vacuum, but when you're thinking about that in the sense of still maintaining your competitiveness and still maintaining the talent level on your team while doing those things, it's a much tighter needle to thread. And that's the job that Ryan Poles has in front of him this offseason, and he has to find a way to get it done, because there are no ifs, ands, or buts, or maybe. You need to improve this team. We want to take the next step. We made it to the playoffs this year. We got one playoff victory, but to get to that next step, the work ain't done yet. And part of that work is going to be keeping some guys as well, in Nahshon Wright and Kevin Byard. These are two guys that have some pretty big situations up ahead of them, right? And so, of course, gearing up for Super Bowl, there's a lot of people that are being interviewed and stuff like that leading into that. Kevin Byard and Nahshon Wright being the representative of the Chicago Bears at the Pro Bowl this year, as well, with Joe Thuney and Drew Dahlman there. This is there's been a lot of talk about guys that are, about what the Chicago Bears are and stuff like that, right? So with Kevin Byard and Nahshon Wright doing a scavenger hunt, right, featuring other Pro Bowl players, it was sent that, when Nahshon Wright said this: shake hands with someone you wish you could play with. The quarterback went up to Kevin Byard and handed him the scroll. We haven't really got to say much. So it's clear that Nahshon Wright and Kevin Byard are saying to the Chicago Bears fans and the fan base of the NFL that, hey, we want to come back to the Chicago Bears. We want to continue to play together. The work's not done here. Now, I've been, consistent in the sense that I don't think Nahshon Wright's coming back. We talked yesterday about how Spot Rack has, Nahshon Wright's contract, value estimated at about $16 million. He's going to want a 3 or 4 year deal, so you're looking at about $50 million to retain Nahshon Wright. And the Bears are going to have to ask themselves, are they in a position to be able to do that? Kevin Byard, Ryan Poles already buried the lead there. He showed his hand there, the fact that he wants to keep Kevin Byard here with the Chicago Bears. But this goes back to what I just talked about, right? That it's not easy to keep everybody. And it's not easy to keep everybody and improve. It's different when you have a team where you're like, hey, bet we're contenders. We just got to keep bringing everybody back. We're going to hope for internal development. We're going to draft, maybe make some strategic signings here and there. But the Bears have to overhaul the defensive line. It's just my personal opinion. You have to overhaul the defensive line. Even if you're expecting Austin Booker to make another step or a leap this year, you still have to address something in that defensive line, whether it's short term or long term. You have to do that. And Nahshon Wright may be one of the casualties there. I just think that with Zay Frazier coming up in the wings, Terrell Smith going back to being healthy, we'll see, right? So while Kevin Byard, I do think there's a general feeling that the love there is mutual. Kevin Byard wants to come back to Chicago. Chicago wants him back. Nahshon Wright is just a different, right? He was only got paid a little over $1 million last year. He's going to take every opportunity of what's around his name in the season that he had to get the most money in the longest deal possible. It just is what it is. Both these guys had statistically really great seasons. You cannot take away from the season that these guys had, but that is the side effect of football. You don't get to keep everybody you want to keep. Everybody doesn't get to come back. Sometimes you have to let players go, and it doesn't mean that they weren't good for you. It doesn't mean that they don't have a bright future, but it means that you have to address other things in other places. I think that's what it's going to have to. Now, Nahshon Wright, for what it's worth, too, a great value for what we signed him for, but I do think at a $16 million evaluation, the standard becomes different. And ask yourself, even with the interceptions that he was able to have, did you see from him in coverage that what you needed to see from him? Now, for what it's worth, he said this when he was speaking to Adam Johns. He said, obviously, but we just have to see where it goes from here. We'll see. I definitely would love to be back in Chicago, but who knows? He understands this is a business, and that business may leave him on the outside looking in and not back with Chicago, and that's just the reality of the nature of football. And we'll see what that means for Nahshon Wright. We'll see if Nahshon Wright comes back. But, both these guys, first of all, the Bears being represented at the Pro Bowl is great. But now we just got to see what's next for this team. And what are the Bears going to actually do as far as bringing either one of these guys back? It's clear both of them would love to come back, but can you afford to keep bringing both of them back? That's where the questions start getting a little bit tighter. That's where the answers don't start being as straightforward as what you would like it to be. So we'll see what happens there. Now, I want to move into the next topic, right, where Cole Kmet was asked about Declan Doyle. And I love this because so many people have asked about it. I've talked about the sense that, hey, don't overlook, just because Declan Doyle was not calling plays, don't let that make you think that he was just out there as like a figurehead or something. Cole Kmet talked about Declan Doyle when he was interviewed by The Score. He said this: even though Declan didn't call plays for us, the amount of work that he did on the offensive side of the football was immense. You can see that day in practices. Declan was very hands-on with all of us. Declan's the one addressing the offense at halftime, going over the openers, and that going to be coming up in the second half, telling us what we need to do, what we're seeing, and how we can make adjustments. Declan was definitely a very valuable piece to us offensively. And this is why the Bears in the next step that they make at the offensive coordinator position is one of the most important decisions that you can make in your coaching staff this year. Ben Johnson, even though he's going to call plays, Ben Johnson's job is to still be the head coach. He has to have his hands on everything that's going on with this football team. And so therefore, we haven't heard a lot about what the Chicago Bears are going to do with their offensive coordinator position. That to me kind of makes it seem to me like maybe they're going to be leaning more on internally, which would be JT Barrett or Antoine Randall more than likely. And again, I could be completely wrong on that just because it may seem that way, may not be what it looks like from the outside, but that's just me reading the tea leaves, is that if you're quiet about it, we haven't heard very much about it. Maybe that may mean that, hey, we're just going to hire somebody internally. Or that could also mean, for me to counteract my own point, is that maybe Ben Johnson is going to go with somebody that he's been very familiar with, which we talked about in yesterday's list, that there are a number of coaches that he's worked with in Detroit or had, worked with other places on the staff. And therefore, if you feel confident in bringing in those guys, you may not hear a lot of buzz on it. Now, I do hope that we do get the offensive coordinator named sooner rather than later. I just want it done because I don't want that to be something overarching. We do also have to address our running backs coach, all that type of stuff. And that's fine there. We got those things that we need to lock in on, and that's perfectly fine. But I think the Bears, to find their path really and to find the place that, to get in that pocket that you like to stay in as far as success. And Ben Johnson's already laid out exactly what he wants from his coaching staff. People who want to be here and be here for years. He feels like they have one of the best coaching staffs in the league. And, that comes with those guys being poached from you. So, we'll see what the work is done in that one. But yeah, just this comment from Cole Kmet just highlights the fact that Declan Doyle did a lot of work for this Bears team. And him saying that he was very hands-on with the offense and was a key in making a lot of the offensive decisions and getting them prepped and ready to go. Now, some could say that sometimes the Bears didn't always have the preparation that we want to see from them, but I'm not putting that on Declan Doyle. I think that's just a game plan thing. But the impact that Declan had here in 1 year in Chicago was huge. Now we got to find somebody that can come in here, work with Ben Johnson as well, and still be hands-on, still have that impact with the Chicago Bears, because you want somebody that your head coach trusts. That way he can keep a pulse on everything. One thing that Matt Eberflus did not do was keep a pulse on everything. And that for what it's worth, holding myself accountable, maybe the last time I bring up Matt Eberflus, because at this point, the Eberflus was up out of the Chicago, so let's keep it out of Chicago, right? But with that said, I want to get into the next topic here, and that is a new potential trade target for or trade partner for DJ Moore if the Chicago Bears decide to move him. Now, I know, before you guys get to typing, all that type of stuff, I would love to see DJ Moore just stay here. I think that with the talent that we have on the offensive side of the ball, I'm fine operating from a plethora of talent on the offensive side of the ball. It is what it is. There are some Bears fans that want to see DJ Moore go. There's some Bears fans that don't want to see DJ Moore go. But DJ Moore has been productive. The numbers took a step back last year, and that's because we had more weapons. We had more targets for Caleb Williams. We spread the ball out a little bit more, right? But every time DJ Moore was called upon in the game to do something, he did it. And I think, there were some drops there too. I also think that DJ Moore is just a tough son of a bitch. And there's something that I respect about having tough motherfuckers on our football team, because you have that. But according to Axe Ballantine of Bleacher Report, he did say this in regards to, he had an article in regards to trade targets for teams, and in regards to the Chargers for DJ Moore, he said this: a veteran wide receiver may be on the Chargers wish list after funneling 122 targets to 33-year-old Keenan Allen this season. DJ Moore will be 29 this season and could work after seeing his role cut in Chicago with Rome Odunze and Luther Burden developing. Now, let's look at this, right? We know that DJ Moore has played with Keenan Allen before, so there, for whatever that's worth, right? When you look at the uncertainty around the Los Angeles Chargers and their team overall, Keenan Allen had a productive year. You can't take away from what Keenan Allen was able to do, but he's about to be 34 years old, right? And so if a team is going to be interested, I think I listed them as one of the teams that could be interested in DJ Moore when I did my own article on that, is that it makes some sense. You're looking to add weapons for Justin Herbert. You're trying to get over the hump there. DJ Moore can make a lot of sense there. The question becomes about how available is DJ Moore really? And that's something that we really don't know yet. I talked about at the top of the show, the needle that needs to be thread with the assets that we have here, right? With the lack of money that we have in the cap space. So that could lead you to move somebody like DJ Moore, especially if you trust the development of Luther Burden, you trust the development and where they're going of Rome Odunze, Colston Loveland for that matter as well. If you really trust what these guys can give you in your passing game going forward consistently, and you feel like you can sign a decently priced slot receiver to bring in here, and Luther and Rome Odunze be your 1 and your 2, then okay, great, right? And that's just what you have to do when it comes down to it. But we'll see what happens with the Bears, man. I'll say this when it comes to the Bears. You have to crack eggs to make an omelet. And that means that there are going to be some Bears. There are going to be some Bears that we love on this team that just don't return. That's just it. There's going to be some that just don't return for this team. If you talk about trading for Maxx Crosby, you're going to have to give up. So you're going to have to create that space some way. We've heard about Budda Baker being somebody that the Chicago Bears could also target. That's somebody as well that for your safety position, if you let Jaquan Brisker go, you're going to have to give something, right? Thibodeaux with the Giants, the edge there. These are all veterans that the Chicago Bears could very well target this offseason that all, again, Alex Ballantine in the same article talked about those guys being targets for this team, in this offseason. And we'll see if they can end up doing that, right? Like the Bears, if we really want to get to that next step, it means that we're going to have to make signings. It means that we're going to have to go aggressively after some free agents. It means that we're going to have to cut some guys. It means that we're going to have to restructure some guys. Wherever you fall in the spectrum of that is where you fall in the spectrum of that. But the Bears have a tight window in here to get this shit done, and we'll see, right? Of course, one of the biggest names that we're linked to is Maxx Crosby. The tension with him and the Raiders is palpable, and to be able to add Maxx Crosby to Montez Sweat and just the overall impact that Maxx Crosby has would be absolutely amazing. Kayvon Thibodeaux as well. Like, you look at him as a target for the Chicago Bears, and what he can bring there at the safety position would be absolutely great for this team. And don't get me started on Budda Baker. If the Bears actually go out there and target Budda Baker, I'd love to see that. So we have things that we're looking here for this team. We just got to see if we're going to go out there and get it. And let's see if we can get it done this season, because I would love to be still talking about Bears football this time next year. Take that for what you will. But all right, Bears fans, now I need to hear from you guys. Is Caleb Williams ready to make an MVP leap for the Chicago Bears? Should the Bears pay Nahshon Wright and keep him? Would you trade DJ Moore for the right price, depending on what you get back or what you plan on doing with that space that's created by trading DJ Moore? Drop your thoughts down in the comments below. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can follow us at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform that we happen to be on. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related. That's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.